Good afternoon, everybody. Come on, guys. Good afternoon, everyone.
What's happening? Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Now, some of you may know Fred as the Crypto King, the guy with over 100,000 followers on TikTok. But Fred, I got some questions for you today. I got some questions. Now, I want to know, let's kick off with what is Finder? Because for the last 16 years, you've been building it. Tell us about your organization,
My little project.
your little baby.
Yeah. So Finder's like a fintech, and we started off like comparing things. So comparing like energy, credit cards, things like that. And now we've evolved to we've got a wallet. It's only on the app, so it's our new business. It's the Finder app. You can actually buy coins there, and we're offering 6% on TAUD, which is kind of cool. It's our earn product. You can take it up. Everything's free, and you can join. And obviously at our booth, you can get some free Bitcoin as well. So grab some of that while you can.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I heard that you've been bootstrapping this for a very, very long time. Talk to me about that. I want to know. I want to know about all the hours and hours and hours that you put in, because I heard from your team, you don't sleep, do you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so I guess I have a thesis about building companies, and that is about bootstrapping. So we started Finder. Basically, I used to build websites for people. So I used to drive around all around Sydney and try and sell websites. And we were making people lots and lots of money. I thought, hey, why don't we build some people some websites? And then I thought, why don't we build some of our own? And actually what we did was we had 12 pieces of A4 paper on a desk of ideas. So one was like a poker site, one was like, a Mother's Day present site, a Christmas Day site, anzacday.com.au, all those kind of things. So we launched them all, and one just happened to be Credit Card Finder. So the Anzac Day one got a little into trouble with the Anzacs. So we pulled that down. Actually, we gave it to them. Christmas Day only happens one time a year. Mother's Day only happens one time a year. So just by chance,
Yep.
Credit Card Finder survived.
Okay.
And I have this sort of thesis about burnout. So I sort of play flow, right? So when I'm in flow, when you're in flow, you're like, you got your idea, you're like focused, you're like on it, and then like the time's getting late. So I just let the time go. Whatever the time goes, when my flow is done, that's where I'm done. And sometimes that means it's 3 a.m. in the morning. If it's 3 a.m. in the morning, that's fine. And unfortunately, I tend to operate on Shibesta Standard Time. And I get into trouble for this, by the way. So this is obviously taking a long time to get to this point. And I think a lot of that burnout, I see it as a tool, as a moment of when you need to go and do your genius. And so I wake up at very unusual hours. During the hours of 3 to 5 a.m., I'm usually awake. And actually, if you go back in time in history, humans actually slept in two patterns. So we used to actually sleep and then wake up during the middle of the night because it was very dangerous. The middle of the night was very dangerous for humans. And then we would go back to sleep. And we used to do, prepare seeds. We used to like mend our clothes, our tools, and things like that during the middle of the night. And that was a very safe thing to do in that hour. And so I just, people talk about circadian rhythms. I don't really understand that. It doesn't work for me. And obviously, this is, everyone has their own way of doing things. But I sort of operate on a way where I sort of listen to my own energy, and then I just give it all out. And when I'm done, then I go to sleep.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, for the audience, obviously, we're here. It's the Australian Crypto Convention. It's the biggest crypto convention that we've had. At what point did you decide, I got to dive deep into crypto?
So I was in New York starting up Finder. It was 2017, and it was snowing outside. And literally, I just kept hearing this Bitcoin thing. It was like everyone was constantly talking about it. We're like, all right, let's start writing about it on Finder. And obviously, then I downloaded the white paper, and I was like, whoa, this is a deep journey, right? I was like, and then I literally I think when I first read about Ethereum, I spent the entire night learning about Ethereum. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to buy it or anything like that, so I missed the whole thing. But for me, naturally, I love finance, I love marketing, and I love technology. And I think those three things is what's brought together, right? And my whole mission, I think, in Australia particularly, I think Australia punches way above our weight. We do an incredible job. And a big shout out to everyone who's here. You're like part of the community, but growing this. And I want to grow the pie. I want more projects to do well. Everyone who's here, I want them to do well. That's my goal. Grow this whole industry, raise the awareness up. that's gonna raise all the boats, and I want everyone to succeed.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here, this weekend, like to educate, to get people out there to find out about this incredible world. But back in 2017, that was, it would have been, it's not as easy as it is today,
Yeah,
to get into crypto.
We went through the bear market in 18, 19. So like this doesn't feel as wintry. To me, this feels kind of mild. It's like a Gold Coast winter.
Yeah, those
it's not really that cold.
Those that have been through the 2018 are kind of like cruising.
Oh.
They're smiling, going
Yeah,
through
like,
it. They're
we're
like, yeah, I'm 80% down. That's cool.
I'm thinking of going swimming in this weather.
yeah. They're like, I just bought more.
Yeah, I remember the day when Bitcoin dropped. I think it was about seven grand, six and a half, straight down to 3,800. I remember watching the candle, and it was like just the feeling of just like, oh, this is all over. We're finished now. Like we're gonna pack up and go home.
Yeah.
And many people just didn't leave. I just didn't leave. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna leave. And we just kept riding, kept building. On Finder, you kept writing up more coins, more exchanges, and just stuck it out, right? Like it was like brutal. People were like, why are you talking about this Bitcoin thing still? Posting on LinkedIn, and I just get the hate, like huge hate.
Yeah.
Like 18, 19 was like, what's that? That's obviously a scam. Didn't you see the chart? I'm like, I get it, but you need to do the opposite, right? Like I believe in contrarianism. So it's in my book, if you talk about when someone's zigging, you want to be zagging, right? Like whenever the media is really hyping up, that's probably when you want to be thinking about selling, right? And unfortunately, the media writes when something flies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when it dips, that's normally, a good time when it's dead, when it's quiet, when it's wintry, freezing cold. That's actually when you build great projects. That's actually when you make, that's not financial advice, by the way, but this is
financial advice. We're not a financial advice.
This is the time, right? You look at the stock to flow ratio. If I had a graph, I'd show it, but you should type in stock to flow ratio chart, right? Have a look right now. And if you look at the pattern over the last 10 years, we're in that green zone of when things are like hitting that major dip down, right? Everyone's talking about negativity. Everyone seems things are going to go down further. For me, I love this time. This is a great time to be in crypto.
This is the time. This is the time to be in
crypto. This is it. This is that moment in time. And I've done this before. I was sitting on a stage with a guy. He was from a traditional fund, and I was like talking about Bitcoin, and he was like, oh man, like, how's that Bitcoin thing going for you, Fred? And I think the price was like 6 or 7 grand, and I'll never forget this. I said, listen, Matt, I will buy every single Bitcoin that you currently own right here, right now. And he has regretted that ever since.
Nice. And I think for everybody here, you just heard Fred say $3,500 Bitcoin back in, 2018. I mean, did you guys get that? Like, we're never, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but we're never going to see 3.5 grand Bitcoin again. Like, that's, what are your thoughts?
Well,
you hope.
I don't think anyone here is going to let that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Well, just think about it, right? So, and just let's talk about some catalysts, right? What are we looking out for? May 2024, next halvening. My maths is sometimes poor. I think it's 3.125. I don't know if anyone can confirm that. Much better at maths, I'm sure, here. But 3.125, so half the amount of Bitcoin produced, less stock, more, keep the demand similar, if not the same. That's a key catalyst, right? And again, stock to flow ratio, that's what I'm looking out for. That's what I'm interested in right now. And I remember when 2020 rolled around, that was the halvening. Everyone was getting hyped, long before that, right? 18, 19. I invested a lot of, Bitcoin mining companies during that time. It was brutal, right? No one was investing in. It was pretty brutal.
You were hated, right? You had a lot of hate. A lot of people, they didn't understand blockchain, they didn't understand crypto. So you would have got a lot of negative feedback whenever you spoke about it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of hardship, in my business, in my life. I've done. It's looks really shiny on the outside, but there's like a graveyard of failures and mistakes. I've lost lots of money. I've made failed projects. It's hard to see, but I just keep going, right? I just keep standing up again.
You don't give up.
Not really, no.
No, you don't.
And I've only just begun, and I'm hoping I can share more and more, really good things for everyone here. I hope, everyone can keep learning, keep growing.
Speaking of the newbies, who got into crypto, say in the last 6 months, 8 months? Anyone in the room? Yeah, we've got a few hands, right? So what are some of the best tips that you have for the newbies, right? I mean, they are new. A lot of people got into the market around that peak, like the November, and they've, it's gone down for them, like, and they feel like the whole world is crushing around them. And I understand, right? I mean, you bought at say 60,000, and then you see it now at 20,000. What are some of your best tips for newbies?
So, the way I look at it right now is, if you look at sort of fundamentally, I remember when in 18, 19, I remember projects dropping, and I was buying ETH at like $800, and then I think it pulled back to like 150, and I was like,
Wow.
just like hurting. I was like, wow, that was a. But fundamentally, I believed in it, right? I believed in ETH. I was like, this is what do I look for in terms of projects? Number one, obviously team. It's pretty obvious. I think you need a sort of a cult leader in crypto. So like you got Vitalik, you got Satoshi,
Crypto King.
You got hopefully
Australia, come on.
I don't know if okay.
He's shy. He's shy.
You've got Charles with Cardano. I don't know about Doe with Luna, but let's park that to the side for a second.
We don't talk about that.
But okay, so that's one thing. The next thing is you need more tech and engineers coming in, right? If they're coming into a chain or an ecosystem, that's a really positive sign. The next time you look at sort of investors and things like that, right? The next thing I look for is, and during this time, I think it's a really key analysis, and I'm sure you could Google this, is have a look at the projects which are earning fees right now. So during the bear market,
That's
they're
awesome.
making money, right? So let's look at synthetics. Let's talk about Aave. These are like ETH obviously is making fees because of the transaction fees. Bitcoin obviously, but look at those projects, right? So during this time, they're still making money. What's going to happen in the future? I'm not saying like you should buy those coins. That's not what I'm saying. You should do your own analysis. But this is just some of the thought patterns I had, right? And I was like, fundamentally, what's going to be here next bull market? Like what's making money now during this time, and think about that in the future. And that's kind of the analysis I was thinking about. The other thing I was thinking during the last bear market was, what are some of the things that will be next, right? So during that time, everyone was talking about DeFi. Compound was just sort of loitering around.
The next trends.
Yeah, Compound was up, and no one really used Compound that much. I was like, this is kind of weird. You can borrow. I don't know what we can do with that, but that's kind of interesting. And I just want to give context, right? Let's go back to September. Let's go back to, I think it's July 2016. Around that time, the Chainlink white paper was written. Okay, so Chainlink white paper was written. Uniswap didn't exist. So there was nothing to use Chainlink.
That's crazy.
Let's just think about that for a minute. So the number one use case of Chainlink, one of the main use cases of DEX, yes, there were other DEXs, but these massive SushiSwap didn't exist, Uniswap didn't exist, none of these things, right? So some of these projects are reaching forward in time, into the future, and predicting what's going to happen. Now, there are a few visionaries like that, and if you get in really early, there are projects out there like that. So if you have a think right now, what do you think is going to be next? What are some of the technologies? What are some of the things that you think have a lot of potential? And if you believe in them now and wait those 2-year time period, there will be other use cases that will build on top of them.
That's
so everyone
awesome.
goes, oh, what's the big use case, right, of ETH? And what's the big use case of, like, you go back in time to, like, I remember 2018, I was in London at a hackathon. I actually went to hackathons and I was like, I need to learn how to code Solidity, right? And so I joined like a hackathon. Everyone's like, what do you do for for work? I was like, well, I kind of, I have this company and, oh, okay. But I just didn't mind. Like, I'm one of, I'm just the same as everyone else. I'm just a person. I'm learning, right? And what I thought back then was, what was fascinating, ETH just had tokens. It didn't have like Uniswap. It didn't have like, NFTs were there. Yeah, we had the standard, but like CryptoKitties were there, but it just wasn't a thing. These use cases come. Stablecoins just weren't as popular. So use cases are going to come in crypto, right? So assume that. So what do you think is going to be big? That's the kind of stuff you want to be thinking about.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I hope you guys are getting this, because this is like gold what you're sharing with us right now. So I can feel the passion, right? I mean, I can feel the energy right now.
I can feel your energy as well, Ivan. I feel everyone's energy here as well. We're doing well.
It's amazing. Now, you're helping now startups in this space, and you've launched your own fund, Hive Empire Capital. There you go. And so I can feel the passion. I can see how passionate you are and how you have this amazing long-term vision for this industry, right? Like speaking to you, this industry is not going anywhere. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about this particular fund that you've created, because you've got some projects which already this particular capital has invested in. Talk to me about that.
Yes. So I guess I obviously built Finder, and just to give everyone context, like these days, it's 300 or so people. Obviously, a lot of people and offices around the world. But I don't actually day-to-day run. I'm not an operating CEO. And I think it's a really hard thing for anyone who's a founder here. Is that journey of like, should you be the CEO of your startup? That's eventually a question that you'll actually face. And my answer was, and everyone else's consensus answer as well was no, which I think is a good thing, right? So inside Finder, about 4 people report to me, which sounds unusual, right? But the actual other founder of Finder, Frank, he runs Finder along with a whole series of other incredible operators, CEOs of other countries. And so I thought, what am I really good at, right? And this is really about an introspection and a deep journey inside yourself. And really what I came to is I think I'm really good at starting things and getting things from 0 to 1. Maybe 2-ish. 2.5.
2.5.
2.5. 2.5 to like 10 or 100. I'm just not great at that. I'm not built for that. Naturally. It's just not my thing, right? So I'm really good at seeing ideas. I have a really good intuition. And I thought, how can I serve? How can I give back? And I thought, well, what if I go and meet some incredible founders, and maybe there's some small thing I can give them. And usually, obviously we give a little bit of capital at the start, very angel, very early. Like I love pre-revenue, just an idea. I'm thinking about this.
It's on a piece of paper.
It's literally a WhatsApp message, or
oh wow,
okay, let's not go WhatsApp. Let's go Signal, or Telegram,
LinkedIn private message.
Let's go, yeah. And what I think is really important is I feel in that moment, one of the things that I think Steve Jobs did incredibly well is he recognized and honored the value of great ideas. And ideas, when they are born, are these tiny little fledgling, like so vulnerable little seeds. And they need the care and to be honored for them to not be struck down by criticism and critique and all the negatives that can potentially go with that, in order for them to get up and live and survive. And I bet everyone here has probably got ideas like that, because you're masters of your own domain as well. And those ideas are like, they're your brilliance, they're your genius, right? And I think in some small way, I help to honor founders' genius. What are they masters at? And I serve them in that sense. And I feel I can coach and provide that sounding board, and then provide a bit of capital just to get started. Then we bring in some other investors, and off we go. And so we've done this with Balthazar. It's an NFT gaming platform. Balthazar was named after the restaurant in New York. I don't know if anyone's been there. There actually is another one in London as well. But Balthazar's actually coming out with some incredible stuff. I can't talk too much about that, but I would start watching it right now. It's got backing from Animoca, KuCoin, Algorand, Phantom. It's Tezos. It's got some great backers, and I think helping position that it's pivoted and evolved, and that idea was really baked in NFT gaming. And I think NFT gaming, some of the things that are missing and really need solving. And I think Kieran talked about this in his talk, right? Is non-custodial wallets and bringing in Web 2 people. I think the infrastructure of NFT gaming needs more. There are all these games solving the same problems. They have the same issues, and there's no tech. So what I thought was, I remember building websites when there was no WordPress, no Squarespace, and that slowed everything down.
Flash, Dreamweaver.
Oh, Flash, Dreamweaver, Macromedia.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh.
Pop3 accounts, installing PHP. That was, and so once those things are built, Balthazar is really helping to serve that. And that's the infrastructure, that's the layer that's needed in NFT gaming to start speeding it up and bringing these games faster to market. Because there's so many games building, so many games coming, and that's what it's going to go and serve.
Incredible. Incredible. Fred, thank you so much. Can I please have a huge Australian crypto convention round of applause for Fred?
Thanks very much. All right, We got to give another shirt out. Here we go. Here we go. Oh.
We're going to open it up to questions. Anyone? No, you blew them away.
I wouldn't ask myself a question. But
I have lots of ideas I'd love to build some software around. Where do I find these amazing people to build my dream?
So I'll just repeat the question if I can. So you've got amazing ideas. You need engineers and developers to help you, product people, designers. Where do you go? So I have a few ideas. There's some amazing engineers here as well in this convention. That's one place. I think in the beginning, but I think, platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer have incredible talent, actually incredible talent. And I guess to share, Finder uses and has been using Upwork from the very beginning. And a little damaging admission, the Finder logo was designed on 99 Designs. It was $300. Because we just thought we need lots and lots of designs and how can we get it out there? So, all of these tools and platforms I think are great. And I'd strongly suggest having a look at that.
Amazing. Very similar. Any others?
Hey Fred, how's it going? You touched earlier that you've gone through quite a lot of challenges in your life without going too deep into it. How did you overcome these?
Yeah, it's a pretty intense question. So I'll talk about a few and maybe try and give some examples. When I was getting divorced at the time, and I was coming to the end of that. By the way, my ex-wife is an amazing person, love her lots, and we hang out. She's incredible. Shout out to Jess. We hang out. We go traveling with our kids as well. So a lot of work to repair that and really build that. So just good story. But at the time, pretty dark. And another thing that happened at the same time was, I talk about this a lot, is I think one of the key goals as a founder in a company is to replace every single role that you do in the company. And systematically go through that, right? So write a job description and sign your name at the bottom of it. And you're the person in charge of security because you actually manage the security system. You are actually charge of IT. You're actually in charge of accounting, potentially, normally HR at the start. And systematically, you need to go and unpack all those roles. And in 2015, what also happened was I actually had replaced all my roles, and I no longer actually had a role in the company. So it's very unusual. But I would turn up to leadership meetings, and I would just sit there, and no one reported to me. Like 0 people. So I would just make suggestions, and in that moment, what I realized was, if anyone watches Scooby-Doo, does anyone watch Scooby-Doo? So in Scooby-Doo, there's like a house, and it's like the beautiful house, but it's potentially being renovated and demolished, and there's a ghost in the house. And actually, Scooby-Doo plays out, and it finds out that the ghost in the house was the person who made the house. They want to protect it. And there was no harm, no foul, but they were the ghosts in the house. Yeah, so I became the ghost in my own company, basically. I wanted to keep it all the way that it was, right? And the way it was built. And so I really had to go through a relearning and a reinvention of myself. And I think some of the key things I suggest, and this is some methodology, is to take a piece of paper and write down your story. So what's your story? So say someone says, hey, what's your story? And you tell them your story. I did this, and then I went to here, and I did that, and I founded this company. Okay, so that's great, and that's awesome. That's reflection. And now tell me, what's your new story? What are you going to become? What is the future opportunity What is all that potential that you're going to capture and gain? What are you going to become? And that is how you reinvent yourself. I remember I was in New York at the time. There's a video actually. It's about an hour, and I think it happened at about 3 a.m. And my co-founder just sat there, and we cried through the whole thing when I basically found out who I was. And then I realized who I needed to become and how I could keep serving people. And I think that future potential of yourself, no matter what mistakes you've made in the past is done. The future is the future. now is the only moment we have. And what are you going to create and become in that future? And I honor and believe in everyone here to be able to go and create greatness, right? Because that hasn't happened yet, no matter how hard the problem is. And so I really had to go and rebuild myself. And I've done this many times. And even again, I did that recently again after I actually got on a plane and went over to New York and started up Finder in the US. And so I had something new to do, and it was great. And I was alive again, and I was excited. And then we hired a CEO, and then I lost that role, and then I had to go do it again and again and again. And it's just the nature of, I think, a founder, right? That's not a natural CEO. You need to go, and I think if you look at the Netflix founders, there's one of them that's like that, the original, one of the originals, and he's just not. That's not for him. And he's gone on to create more companies. He sold his shares, and he keeps going, and I think that's more what I realized I was, and it's about that introspection. And hopefully, I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully there's something in that.
Amazing. Once again, a round of applause.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.